The Tiki Cast.
Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away,
Star Wars toys
began. And Kennard continues the excitement.
The Empire Strikes Back collection.
El regreso del Jedi.
Welcome to the Star Wars Collectors Archive Podcast. It's the Chive Cast.
For Death Star Space Station, the snap-open space hatch.
Sometimes known as the Vintage Pod.
Wow, what a weird place.
A monthly audio magazine dedicated to vintage Star Wars toys and memorabilia. Hosted by Skye Payne, Fudd,
Chewbacca's lit too.
and Stephen B. Denley.
B-Wing fighters and B-Wing pilot action. B-Wing pilot action. B-Wing pilot action. B-Wing pilot action.
Market data mined by Brisbane Mike
Luke Skywalker handles his saber well.
and Fratastic Pete.
Boba Fett has a see-through helmet.
Tech support by the Low Ones. Luke has finally been found again in this long-lost Luke Hoth Chive Cast, which was recorded almost a year ago. Join Skye and Steve with Isaac Lev and Will Grief as we delve into the anatomy of a find in the wild, while simultaneously making fun of the term in the wild. We talk about teapots and cereal promotions and wampas and tauntauns and all of our usual features. Also, some more wacky Force Awakens theories on this once again found, thought it smelled bad on the outside, Chivecast Vintage Pod. Alright, well, before Steve and I make with the Wampa Wampa, I just want to introduce why are we finally releasing what was Chivecast number 60. Well, as I said, they asked me, Isaac and Will, who made this big find about an hour away from where I live. They flew in here from Miami and from California to pick up all these interesting things, which we'll talk about later in the episode. And they left a box of like magazines and books and price guides, and I was like, okay, cool. You need me to help send this to you? Because, you know, they're sending everything FedEx, and they wanted me to send it book rate. So, essentially, for the past year, I've had this box in my garage, and it's been this source of guilt. And I said, well, I'll release their episode of the Chivecast when I've actually sent out the box. And earlier this week, I sent out the box. Plus, I finally made good on the 2013 contest in which I said I would send out Star Tots to people who left comments on iTunes. I really should have said U.S. only. No offense to our UK listeners. I was very happy to send something to Richard, but I had to fill out a customs form for a single Star Tot, and it was all this big mess, and the guy at the post office didn't know how to type, which is okay, but you'd think he'd know how to type. That seems weird. Anyway, so congratulations to Richard and Dwayne, who finally received their awards this week. So I can finally release this episode. It's... So before I actually got into it, I did want to sort of start with a couple of notes. One, it's going to be our 6th anniversary next month, so that's pretty exciting. It was in February 2010 when we started this show. I actually just listened to, as listeners know, probably my favorite podcast is actually Star Wars Oxygen, hosted by Jimmy Mack and David Collins. And I made this little video, which if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the Chivecast Vintage Pod YouTube channel, in which I compare the song Sure Shot by the Beastie Boys to the new theme song of Ray by John Williams. And it's a fun video. You can see Yehuda in it, and it's pretty cool. And so I sent this to Jimmy Mack thinking, oh, he'll just think this is funny. So if you listen to the most recent Star Wars Oxygen, you will hear them, first of all, talk about our show, and Steve and I will talk about that next month. And then they play the two songs back to back, and then I get absolutely destroyed. So anyway, it's pretty funny. If you like hearing one of the hosts of the show get destroyed, you should listen to that show. And then I thought I would actually bring up a new feature, which instead of only talking about the old movies, come up with my sort of famously weird theories about the new movies. So in addition to Beastie Boys and John Williams, I'm just going to throw this out here. And this is going to be spoilers, so skip ahead 5 minutes. Skip ahead to 8 minutes and 30 seconds. if you don't want to hear spoilers. Just skip ahead till you hear Steve's voice. You heard it here first, folks. Not only did last month did we discuss and discover that Rey is related to Palpatine, but you know who Leia is? Leia is Snoke. Alright, now that sounds crazy, right? First of all, this whole trilogy needs that moment where everyone goes, "What?" And they go, "No way, Darth Vader's Luke Skywalker's father," and all that stuff. And they can't do it with Rey being anybody's kid. Like, that's not surprising. The only way to surprise us would be to really surprise us. So why would Leia be Snoke? Okay? First of all, if we take the whole thing as like a poetry and all that stuff and repeating the things, one of the coolest things about the prequels, I think everyone can agree, is that both sides of the fight are controlled by the same person. Palpatine controls both the Separatists and the Republic. So here we would have Leia controlling the New Order. Every time I turn around. No, the First Order. And also controlling the Resistance, which is perfect. And then she's able to use them to actually destroy the Republic, thereby taking out any sort of centralized power and allowing herself to be on both sides of this, till eventually she could take over. And, like, think about her whole role in the movie. So, everyone's looking for Luke, right? Everyone's looking for Luke. Why is Luke so important? It seems kind of weird. He's the last Jedi in the galaxy. Well, of course, she could be the last Jedi in the galaxy, and we don't know what happened. And so everyone's looking for Luke. The good guys and the bad guys. And eventually the good guys find her. But what if Leia were fighting for the bad guys? What if she was the bad guys? Then that ending where Rey's holding out the lightsaber and Luke's looking at her is like, oh no. You didn't let Leia find out where I am, did you? Like, maybe that's what Luke is hiding from. Maybe the story is that, oh, he's so upset about his thing being destroyed, but maybe it was his own family that did it to him. Maybe he realizes he needs to be away because this can all kind of be manipulated. So, I don't know. It's it's a silly theory, and much like the Beastie Boys thing, in my heart of hearts, I probably don't actually believe it's true. But the fact that it is entertained, right? Is it possible that she's just kind of projecting this other side of herself? And that in reality, this old, beat-up, scarred man who seems like almost like a parody of all the previous big bad guys is actually the big good guy. Oh yeah, and the whole, if you see our son, bring him back. It works out. Either way, no matter what happens, she is still controlling that force. And maybe she actually set it up so that her dirty ex-husband gets killed by her son, who's secretly her henchman, who she's ruling the galaxy with as mother and son. Oh, mother boy. Anyway, that's my wacky, everybody make fun of Skye because it's totally wrong theory about Force Awakens this month. And now, let's get to Chivecast number 69, a.k.a. Chivecast number 60. But actually, it's 69. Oh, right. 69! Wampa Wampa.
Welcome to Chivecast number 60.
Should be our 5th anniversary.
Yeah, but mathematically speaking, yeah, but...
Well, we did record an episode with the guys over at the Star Wars Forum UK.
Yes, that's true.
So that's kind of like... Well, I guess that's their episode, isn't it? That was good. You guys should have a listen to that. It kind of buried the hatchet, so to speak.
Yeah, that was actually really fun.
It was weird talking to you and then not having to edit it.
Yeah, it just kind of ended and then just kind of went off into the ether.
Yeah, it's very relaxing. It's kind of like,
yeah.
I guess, like talking to a lawyer when he's off the clock. It's just like, hey, I don't have to deal with this conversation at any time. Well, I'm taking a sip from my Emperor cup.
Good deal.
Which was, of course, a gift from Isaac and Will.
Right, we'll be hearing from them pretty soon here.
Yeah, we're going to have an old-fashioned round table, or I guess kind of a new-fashioned round table. But they're the ones who gave me the cups. And then it was really cool because my family and I went and visited Yehuda over the weekend.
Oh, cool. Right on.
And Yehuda's always, as you know, very generous. So he gave them a couple Empire Strikes Back cups. So I went from having literally no glasses in my house to now having 6 vintage Star Wars cups that we use on a daily basis.
Oh, you can't ask for more.
And I noticed, Steve, that your figure thought was the same figure thought that I had when I thought of
Really?
Luke Hoth. Isn't that funny?
Ah, that is funny. All right. So that's right. Luke Hoth is our figure of the month, right?
Right. Now, can you say without looking the wording on the card back? Of course, it's Han Solo Hoth outfit, and Luke, it's Hoth battle gear.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess, well, Hound Hoth came out first, right? So that it could have been...
Oh, no, I know why. It's because Han's thing is just like a jacket. Like, he's just dressed warmly, whereas Luke is dressed up like a Hoth soldier.
Yeah, that's
to the
true.
point where I can never tell the difference between him and like a rebel soldier, a rebel commander.
It's funny, as a kid, I could have sworn that I had a Luke Hoth figure, but then when I actually saw one as an adult, I'm like, oh, nope, that's not the one I had. I had definitely had a rebel soldier.
So anyways, that was our thought is about this month. It is nice. It's been thawing here in Rochester, but it snowed today in honor of our podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what was your figure thought, Steve?
Okay, so my thought was, why didn't he come with a lightsaber? It's just interesting because you always associate him chopping off the Wampa arm with this lightsaber. It's like a very key moment. You don't ever really see him carrying around this blaster rifle thing that they give him. But I don't know.
Yeah, you never see it. I wonder if Kenner was maybe wasn't given images of Luke fighting a Wampa or whatever. Like, I guess because it was him and his sort of battle things, maybe it made more sense to have him
with a gun. Yeah,
have a gun. I was thinking about it, and I realized that if you look at the Luke Bespin, which comes with a gun and a lightsaber,
right?
And I believe that. I mean, that's the first time that. Yeah, obviously that's the first time where you'd have both.
Right.
I think if you look at the original walking photo, he very clearly has a lightsaber and a gun in the walking photo.
Yeah.
I wonder if the original photos that were sent was just the gun photo, if he would have gotten a lightsaber from Kenner or not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
This is wild, ridiculous speculation on my part. But yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was thinking that Hasbro. I remember when they released Han Hoth with a lightsaber. And that blew my mind, because I'm like, these guys are so smart. Of course, he has to rip open the tauntaun. That's such a smart idea.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's funny. Speaking of opening bellies of tauntauns, I mean, it's funny that they went to the trouble of making like a second tauntaun that had the open belly feature. But I would have thought, like, why didn't they do like a Wampa with detachable arm? Like, how awesome would that have been? You just like slice off this giant Wampa arm.
Well, I, for one, as a youngest brother, can tell you I'm happy they didn't, because it means all the Wampas I played with had two arms.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they could have made something a little bit more dynamic for the Wampa. I don't know though. The Wampa's so good.
It's pretty awesome the way it is.
Thwops,
Yeah.
But actually, usually before we get to the movie thing, we get to my movie thought. I guess we're mixing up, Steve, right?
That's okay. Yeah.
So my movie thought, and this again comes from the time when the kids were sick and we watched all the movies in the original versions of them.
Right.
So you know how Chewie acts as Han's conscience, right?
Right. I think we've brought this up before, yeah.
Right, so that's a standard thing, right? Like whenever Han's going to do something selfish, Chewie's like, "Arr!" And then Han's like, all right, fine. This is kind of tied into me doing charity in the name of Chewbacca. So kind of like, why Chewbacca is a great and good character. I just noticed that it's really weird that Han sends Chewie out of the cantina.
Oh.
He's like, okay, you go get her started up, and I'll meet you there. I mean, I don't think that's really the way they do it. It was this way where, Lucas was trying to set it up. You could have the confrontation between Greedo and Han. But in another way, it was really like his conscience was just like, okay, see, you get out of here. And that's another reason that Han shooting first doesn't work. I mean, does work, because his conscience left. And so he's not the same. He's only like a half person.
Right.
Chewbacca right there.
There you go.
What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think that was well argued, especially if I'm glad you said that Han shooting first is right.
Right.
And it definitely fits in with that whole strategy there. So yeah, all right, I'm on board with that.
So this is what I want to do. I want them to recut it with Chewbacca just sitting next to him, and
Over
then
his
have
shoulder.
Greedo shoot first, because that way it makes sense. you know?
Oh no! See, don't let George. Well, I guess George can't really do much about it now, but I guess on his own he could. Don't let him hear that.
Yeah. Well, Steve, seeing as we've really flipped things around, we did the figure thought before the movie thought. Why don't we do the flip the script before the Skye Coos?
Okay, that's fine.
It's getting really, really hot in here.
Flip the script.
Okay, so this kind of comes back to my figure thought actually, dealing with the whole Wampa thing. I'm kind of going back to the same well with the Lee Brackett 78 draft, but it's just interesting that the things in the Wampa cave aren't really the same as they turn out. For one, he hears Ben Kenobi's voice while laying on the floor in the Wampa cave. That's the first time he hears him. So that's interesting on his own. So right before the Wampa is attacking, he hears Ben, and that's what actually kind of gives him the strength to like wake up and get going. So I'll just read just a little bit of it here. So he's laying on the floor. His lightsaber is, I guess, still on him at this point. He's just kind of unconscious. So the Wampa's coming, and Ben all of a sudden speaks to him. Remember the Force, boy. Open your mind to it. Open your heart. And then just after that, she writes, stepping back from the monstrous form, only half glimpsed in the starlight, Luke seems to grow taller, take on stature. He draws the lightsaber, and when the beast lunges at him, he moves expertly, slashing with the beam, and the beast, with one strange cry, vanishes into a burst of vapor. So that was like a crazy alternate take on this kind of, I don't know, iconic scene where he's hanging upside down and he has to get, use the Force, get his saber and all that. But I also love the idea of the Wampa vanishing in a burst of vapor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that's kind of the moment where he kind of almost wakes up in a way.
Oh man, you ever see the Robot Chicken where the Wampa has to get gas at the station with one hand?
I must have. There's been so many.
It is
so
so
long.
uncomfortable. It's funny, but it's like I have to skip it with the kids because it's so
really?
spirited. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, actually, my first Skye Coup. Everything's segueing so well together, Steve.
All right.
My first Skye Coup was actually. I have to explain them now. I have to say, Steve, after the poetry, so I did the poetry slam last month.
Yes.
And I realized I got a good response from it, but I also realized I got way too into it.
You're acknowledging that yourself?
No. Like next time I do one that's that good / bad, I need to immediately follow it with a reading guide where I talk about the ways that I'm quoting Hamlet and the ways in which I'm inverting that and pertaining it to, and then I brought in Philip K. Dick and all this other stuff, the concepts of
And he needs an analytical essay to accompany.
Franchise and its role in robots, and yeah, the best part about that, Steve, actually, is that my kids love that poetry slam.
Oh yeah,
they made me listen to it like over and over again.
Oh, that's
their
great.
favorite part is. Put me in the back of an intergalactic station wagon made by a squid.
Oh yeah, I was scared that I opened that door for you, and then I have to say I was quite surprised. It was nice.
Yeah, well, I'll release an annotated version of that in the future.
Yeah.
The collected ramblings of Skye. But anyways, so I'm gonna have to explain both the Skye Coups this month.
All right.
When I was growing up, for some reason, my parents attached a lot of importance to the fact that Mark Hamill was in a car accident before Empire Strikes Back.
See, it's funny. My mom did too. I'm curious where you're going with this. Yeah.
Well, just that the way it was presented to me and the way I thought it was up until today when I researched it was that he was a super famous, multimillionaire really quickly, and he must have, been doing Tony Montana amounts of coke and just ran into a telephone pole. But actually, I read about it today. It was actually in January of '77 that he got in the car accident, at least according to Wikipedia.
All right.
And that he just was in a BMW, and it wasn't like that spectacular of a crash, but that he probably had some facial work done.
Right.
But just that the idea they had to build this into the script, it felt like this little secret that I knew.
Yeah, no, same for me. But I didn't know the full story. That's interesting.
And also in a similar way that, Nashville Skyline by Bob Dylan is apparently all about his motorcycle accident, which I somehow conflated together into one thing. But that's
neither here nor there.
Yeah, that is neither here nor there. So here is my Skye coup about the character and the actor. Wampa hides the scar. BMW crashes. Corvette summer fail. All right, Steve. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to call Steve, not Steve. We're going to call Isaac and Will.
Right.
And we're just going to have a round table, which is going to be a different format, which is the way I'm thinking of it. Tell me if you agree, because I just kind of railroaded over this. We just have a list of topics, and we talk about those topics, and every once in a while, I don't know, I'll blow a whistle or something, and then we'll go into one of our usual features. And then we'll back out of it.
That sounds fine with me, yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think it was kind of... Did we try this before in a round table or something kind of like it?
Steve, I don't know anything. I don't remember who we interviewed for the 2-1 episode. It is amazing how little I remember about the show. Anyways, but that has nothing to do with the round table. Take a seat at the board with the Space Chess Roundtable here on the Vintage Pod.
It is a silly place.
I see your point, sir.
Hello, Will and Isaac. This is Skye from the Star Wars Collectors Archive podcast. How are you guys doing?
Good. Good. How are you?
Good. That's the new way I have to introduce myself. That's the Thurn rules. So before we get started, Isaac, you just sent us a clarification. Now, there's one thing we talk about more than anything on this show. It is proper and improper pronunciation. And it turns out that even though your name is only 3 letters, we've been mispronouncing it for 5 years. So I've been saying Isaac Lou. How should I be saying it?
So it's actually pronounced Lev.
And then it's Will Grief. Is that correct? To be more in line with the French pronunciation, Will? Or do you prefer Grief?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Yes, Grief.
Yeah, I typically pronounce Isaac's name a little bit differently than everybody else. I typically call him Yitzchak Lou.
Okay. Well, good. Well, we've learned something here today, Steve. Anyways, it's good talking to you guys, and we'll see you at Celebration.
Sounds good. This is awesome, Skye.
No, the real reason that we're calling you is I alluded to it last month, but I got a very exciting text at some point about when I was going to get to that you guys were going to be in town, and it was a little bit later than I thought it would be when I finally got to see you. By that I mean I was kind of like looking at my phone like a teenage girl waiting for the boy to call her after the dance. But but it was this really exciting thing where I got to see the aftermath of a really interesting and important find. And it was too much. Like I tried interviewing you, Isaac. I believe it was around 2:00 in the morning at a FedEx Kinko's, and whatever you said, I have it recorded, but it's not too coherent. So
yeah, it was not good. So it's good that we're redoing it.
So Steve, I think I want to call this Anatomy of a Find.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, so tell us, Isaac, how does a find like this happen? Take it from maybe square 1 and then skip to like square 4.
3 years ago, I got an email from a collector. Well, I guess it's not really a collector, just a person who used to collect when they were a child, saying that they were interested in selling some Kenner advertising. And typically when I've come across that term, people mean different things. Rarely does it mean, Kenner store displays, in my experience. Typically it means something like the little intact catalogs that are included with the box toys, or something that people see a Kenner logo on and maybe like a couple of toys, and then they're like, oh, this is advertising. And as collectors, I would assume that we as collectors would assume that to be store display. So anyway, I got this email and followed up on it, and it turns out that this person had, as a child, gone to various stores, and besides buying the toys themselves, was also actually very interested in the store displays that were found in the stores. So he would go and ask the store managers if he could have the displays. And he mentioned that about a third of the time they would give it to him or say come back later, but about 2/3 of the time that would not happen. You know, they would be like, oh, we'll call you, we'll let you know, but nothing would ever come of it. So this person sent pictures, and included in his collection were a number of extremely rare displays that I had not seen for sale in a very long time. So that kind of set the stage, and that was 3 years ago.
All right, so that was 3 years ago, which is how long it took me to edit my most recent charity video. So that's a good period of time here. So then what happened in between the 3 years till now? Like, what did you do to keep this going?
So I guess in the meantime, once I knew that this person had things that I was very interested in, I kept emailing him, not incessantly, but basically saying, yes, I'm interested. These are some of the things that I'm most interested in. And I, basically told him which pieces those were. But it soon became clear that this person wanted to get rid of everything all in one shot, and did not want to go about piecing everything out and selling different pieces from his collection individually. He wanted somebody to buy everything all at once, even the crappy stuff. And that seems to be a theme. I know Ron Salvatore has talked about that in the past, and other Todd and a bunch of other collectors. Will, I know I've had experience with this. Sometimes you have to buy a lot of stuff that you don't want in order to get the stuff that you do want.
Now, when after the find, I'm just going to jump ahead here. After the find, I am shocked and dismayed, Will, at your actions, at what you threw away. That's of great value to most people, Will. Can you remind everybody what you threw away?
It was painful. It's painful for me to part with anything, but it's especially painful for me to part with 1990s food-related items, and I had to throw away a huge number of Taco Bell toys. I did save one. Jar Jar Binks. I saved him.
You didn't save the Sebulba cup topper?
Oh. No. I saved Jar Jar. I saved him by sneaking him into Isaac's suitcase, so he had a nice little surprise when he came home.
Yes.
To Miami.
Yeah.
Were you pulled over by TSA, Isaac?
What was that?
Were you pulled over by TSA?
I was not, but when I was unpacking, I saw this. I was like, "Oh, this has got to be Will."
Okay, so let's get us back on track. So it's a common theme where you have to throw stuff away, and so you kind of knew it had to be everything or nothing.
Right. Well, I don't know if you have to throw everything away, but this was interesting because when this person, virtually all of this stuff was vintage. There was very little modern, and it was odd that he had so much of these episode 1 cup toppers. I think there were 5 paper copy boxes full of them, and they were all they were just not worth taking back. So let's throw those away. Okay, getting back on track. So basically went back and forth emailing, and then I realized that to make I wanted everything for myself, but practically speaking, that wasn't possible. So I wanted I asked Will if he was interested in joining me in making an offer to this guy, and Will said yes. And so for the next 3 years after that, kind of every once in a while, I would email him and say, yeah, still interested. I guess I should mention that once that initial contact took place, he was very slow about going about selling it. So I guess he was kind of getting a feel for what his stuff was, and then once he knew that I was interested, that there was interest in it, that he kind of took his time in going about selling it. And so, just kind of reminded him that I was still interested in it, and that I would really like to buy it, basically. And that went on for all the way until about December, I would say December of 2014. So we're talking about fall 2011 to December 2014. Wow. And that's when that's basically when he had decided, okay, time to sell it. Made a final offer, and the deal was done. Then the next step, I guess, was going to pick it up, because he was adamant that he did not want to break it up, and he preferred someone to come and pick it up in person. So that's when me and Will had to figure out how to get to where this guy was, and he was in New York State, in a town called near Elmira.
I have many students from Elmira.
There you go. I had never heard of Elmira before in my entire life. And when I looked at the weather, I was shocked to see how cold it was. So that actually affected our schedule. We had to work around the weather, basically, and pick a weekend that we thought was going to work in terms of the weather cooperating. And it ended up it did, but it was close there, because all over the news I kept seeing there was record, snowstorms and, all this snowfall. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh man, this is, there's going to be some snowstorm. I could be able to make it. So that was a little tricky. But yeah, so then I think it was late February, that we went up to.
Hey, well, I mean, is there anything interesting about the actual transaction? Was there anything idiosyncratic or fun about the person when you bought it?
The transaction. So yeah, he's an interesting guy. His main collecting thing was tiki mugs, and I guess there's a whole tiki mug collecting subculture. Maybe not as big as the vintage Star Wars collecting community, but yeah, tiki mugs. So he gave us a little tour of his whole tiki mug collection, and he basically told us he had probably one of the largest tiki mug collections in the world. Huh. I don't know, Isaac, if you remember how many he said he had. It was several thousand tiki mugs.
Yeah, I think it was over 3,000.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah.
Is he one of the hosts of the Tiki Cast?
The
Tiki Cast. I just want to make the theme song for that. Somewhere Tommy Garvey's happy. Wow, I'm glad I asked that question. You guys didn't tell me that night. What's up?
It's always a little bit, sometimes a little bit awkward when you're first meeting somebody or buying something at their house, or you don't know whether to trust you or not. And he at first he seemed like he was a little bit wary of us, because two strangers flying across country to buy Star Wars toys from you, who wouldn't be worried about that, right? But I asked him if he would show us his tiki mug collection, and it kind of broke the ice, and he was very kind enough to show us the whole collection. It was pretty impressive. I can't appreciate tiki mugs, but very interesting stuff.
I'm actually interested now. I'm going to look that up. Okay, so then he's sitting there and just gave you the tour of the tiki mugs. You eventually, I imagine, get to talking money and all that awkwardness. And then you guys packed up. Now, when I saw it, okay, so the initial plan was you were going to meet me for lunch. And I think I got a call at 1 p.m. being like, we're up and we're getting ready for breakfast or something like that. It was very, very mysterious. So you guys said what kept you up that night?
So, we stayed up late. we stayed up the first. So yeah, it was a Friday night, and then the Friday night we finished the deal. I will say one more. You said something. Is there anything interesting or about the person or about the actual deal itself? There was two things I would say. One, it was interesting is this person had lived in Ohio originally, and he moved to, and he got all this as a child, and he moved to New York a number of years ago, and he put all the stuff in the basement, and the basement flooded. So his impetus for selling that was the flood. Basically, some of it got damaged. Thankfully, not terribly, and not a lot, but definitely some of it did. So he figured, look, I don't really care about this anymore. I should sell this to someone who will care about it before it gets completely ruined. So I thought one that was interesting, and it was heartbreaking because he had mentioned how he had thrown away one of the display bins that just got damaged and water damaged, and who knows like how much damage it got, and whether it was still worth anything, or if it was completely soaked or just a little bit. But he had to throw one of those away, and it's kind of painful to hear him say, "Oh yeah, I had to throw that away." And Will and I kind of both like cringed and like, "Oh man, that sucks."
Wait, okay. Describe that piece that he's talking about that he had to throw away, just so we can all feel the pain. Because I don't, as has been evidenced in the past, I don't know a ton about displays, and most of what I know was that conversation with Todd and Will like 3 years ago. So,
got it. So what he was talking about and what we're talking about now is it's a bin, a large bin where carded figures would be inserted, put in. And it would be on a countertop display. So the figures are sitting upright. I'm sure you'll put a picture of it if you figure it out. Anyway, it's a bin. It sits on a counter. It has Star Wars action figures on it for that one, and then on the back, there's a header which features the characters. There's a couple of variety of headers that are available.
And most of them are 12-back bins, right? So is this like a 12-back bin, or?
There's in the 12-back for the Star Wars figures. There's also one that features the rocket-firing Boba Fett. There's one for the die-cast toys. There's one that says Collect All 21. So yeah, there's a variety of those. But I guess typically, the bread and butter would be the ones from the 12-back, which I think are really popular right now.
Yeah.
There's a slight variation on the bins as well. Like some of the 20 and 21 bins actually came with like a different number on the back and were folded a little bit differently. Just an obscure variation that not too many people would even care about.
Well, I'll tell you what, Will, we were criticized heavily last month for not having enough meat on the show and not going into enough detail. Even though we had a lengthy discussion about 41Bs and 41Cs, apparently it was too fluffy. So I'm all for obscure differences between 12-back headers. Steve, are you amazed I waited this long to sound bitter?
Yeah, the bin.
You held off pretty well there.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, that does stink, the idea of him throwing it away, because I'm sure, it would have to be completely wrecked for it to have no value.
Yeah.
Because it would actually be fun to have a completely ruined header and then have a whole bunch of beater 12-backs on it,
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, at that point we're going to be like, oh man, well, how, you just gotta, we were still there, we were so happy with what we got, but it was painful. As collectors, we hate throwing anything away, except episode 1 Cup Toppers. That's the only thing to throw away.
All right, so then this tiki guy who's got the weird flooding, he unloads all the stuff, and you guys are up until like 5 o'clock in the morning that night. What were you guys doing that night?
No, it was later than that. I remember because I was passing out, and Will suggested that we go get breakfast because the hotel had complimentary breakfast. So it was probably like 7 in the morning. I think 6 or 7 in the morning before we went to bed the first night. So it was late.
Yeah. If you ever want Isaac to like kind of brighten up and wake up when he looks tired, all you gotta do is mention free continental breakfast, and bam, he's right there.
I love being incontinent.
So we had breakfast. We had breakfast.
But wait, what were you doing all night? You just like holding hands,
inventory, or
inventory, splitting stuff up?
Yes. It was basically everything was sort of already packed up when we got it. So we were kind of unloading everything onto the bed, and, all around the floor, and just kind of seeing what all there was. And then basically splitting it.
We had to sort through it also, and we had to make sure we were getting everything that was originally pictured. So that was one thing that we were doing, just making sure we had everything. And then there's also kind of stuff in there that we hadn't necessarily seen pictures of. There wasn't that much of it. All the really good big stuff was already pictured, so we knew about that. But there's a lot of other kind of cool little items that we were able to kind of search through, and just kind of, we were really just enjoying sorting through the stuff, and how time flies when that happens.
Yeah, it just sounds like so much fun. And when I did see you guys, my kids had gone to bed, so that was fine, and my parents were still in town, so they were able to watch my kids. So I was able to go out, and so I just got to see you guys. You immediately gave me a Vineguroff pendant. You like that, Isaac? See the way I pronounced that with a V instead of a W?
That was very good. Yeah.
A Vineguroff pendant of Chewbacca, which I immediately put on. And see, Isaac, you had the C-3PO pendant. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we looked like a couple of wild and crazy guys, and we went out, and it was like 11 o'clock, and you guys had so much to do, but you had no fear. And I was like thinking about how I had to get up with the kids in the morning and all this stuff, and you're just like, yeah, whatever. Let's just go get some barbecue. So we went and got barbecue at midnight, which taking two people from North Carolina to get barbecue is fairly daunting. But we had a nice meal. We had an amazing conversation, which we are going to recreate throughout the rest of the show. And then that's when we went to FedEx, and that's where I really had my fun, because I got to try to explain to this weird old woman working the night shift at FedEx that this gentleman here is from Miami, and this one is from Seattle. And we have 17 boxes filled with Star Wars posters, and we're going to be shipping them. And I don't know if I've ever seen anyone more methodical in my life. This woman, every single thing she said was like, oh, they would fire me if they saw me. Oh, boy. Oh, I shouldn't let you behind here. Hope this is not up to code. I hope they're not filming me. Everything she did was so slow. So that we got there maybe 12:30, and we didn't leave until 5. And there's only 15 boxes. But, she was so slow. I wound up inventing a new instrument called the rank tar, where I was basically just collecting all the runoff from this event very happily. And, of course, they were very generous and gave me the cups and a couple other things we'll talk about later. But there was a Rancor. And I was talking to them about how a Rancor almost converted me to Judaism when I was a kid, because my friend Jeff Levy had a Rancor for Hanukkah, and I thought, does that come with the religion, getting a Rancor? Because I'll sign up for it. So I was just sitting there, and I just played with this Rancor for an hour. I just sat there, and there's a weird wrestling arm stuck in the body, and I just
it was. You see how you figured that one out? You were shaking the Rancor around, you heard this noise inside the Rancor, and you were just determined to find out what was inside, what was fed to the Rancor.
And then eventually I just got even more bored, and they have all those free rubber bands, so I started tying rubber bands around the Rancor and playing what I called the rank tar. And I actually got some pretty good tunes out of it. And anyways, so that was an amazing evening and very exciting. And I was trying to think, Steve, what should we do? Should we start talking about other things, or should we ask them about the big find, the big, most important display that they found?
The big ticket item? I don't know. I think we should. We're in the midst here. Yeah.
Okay. So I did a little bit of research, but I immediately forgot it. So why don't you tell – who should tell us, Steve, Isaac or Will?
I don't know. Whichever you guys is feeling up for it. I'm sure there's a couple things, or is it just one?
I've talked quite a bit.
Okay, Vil.
Vil.
Oh, I got it mixed up. Will.
Yeah. No, it is pronounced Vil.
Yeah.
Finally got it right after all these years. Wilhelm. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Wait, so what was the question? I lost it there.
We're talking about the big ticket, the big pieces, like the Rancor.
Okay, so what were the big ticket pieces besides the Rankitar?
Right. What made you fly from Miami and Seattle, respectively, to go to some weirdo's nice, not a weirdo, just some.
No, he wasn't a weirdo. He was just
some
a
eccentric
tiki mug collector.
Tiki mug collector's collection. What made you actually come out there?
So so there are really like four major displays that were, I guess, would be considered like tougher to find and more desirable. So one was a 12-figure long header, and displays like action figures in the cool yellow and red style, and has a picture of each one of the 12 figures. Actually, they're kind of prototype or first shots of the figures. Or are they first shots, Isaac, or are they bench shots? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay, so we'll show
Anyways,
a picture.
There's a 12 long header. So that was probably the biggest ticket item.
So then this is like, just to paint a picture for those who can't see it. It's a really long figure, like header. It's like a big piece of cardboard, and it just has all the figures pretty well spaced and well posed. And so that's a rare piece. Is that right?
Yeah, that's probably the toughest piece in that collection. There's actually 3 long headers that Kenner made. The 12-figure one, and then there's a 20-figure one with the Boba Fett offer, and then there's a Collect All 21 long header. So actually, those latter 2 are even more difficult to find. But the 12 long header in itself is just it's a prime piece. That's a tough find. So
and to give you an idea of how long it is, according to the Merchandiser, which is the book that like actually displays how you would use these store displays, you could fit 6 carded figures underneath it. So you'd have 2 rows of 6 to have all the 12 backs underneath. So that's to give you an idea of the scale.
Yeah, and more than likely it was either placed in a wireframe type scenario, or because they have these wireframe type displays that I guess could potentially be counter or shelf, and the long header would slide into the wireframe, and then there'd be little prongs that the figures can go on. But also it could be just whatever tacked on to the top of a end cap or something similar.
Awesome. So Steve, that's pretty meaty, right?
Pretty insane. Yeah.
Pretty neat. Is that pretty in detail? Or?
Yeah, that's great. Now, did I even see it? I don't think I even saw it. I think you had it all wrapped up, right?
No, you saw it.
I did? Okay.
I had it wrapped in cellophane, I think, but you're still able to see it.
Well, I have to say that so that was the most valuable thing I think you guys found. And then you had all these great water damaged posters from that were giveaways with Dawn, Tide, and Cheer, right? Like he had this crazy amount of these posters. I don't know how much detergent that guy used to drink. Why do I keep acting like he's a weirdo, Steve? Tiki Man is nice. Oh,
gotta ease up on him. Ease up on him.
Tiki Man nice. But so there's enough of them that they let me take home some, and I gave them to my kids.
Did you put them in the laundry room?
Wow. No, I didn't. I just gave them to my kids, and it's so cool. I'll put up a picture. They're hanging in my kids' rooms.
Awesome.
My kids' rooms are slowly but surely becoming 1983 bedrooms. I've got the Ice Capades with Princess Kanisa up there, and cool Darth Vader posters from 1980. So that was some of the less valuable stuff. So what's another one of the high ticket items or big ticket items, Will?
There's also a larger toy center, original Star Wars toy center gondola header. And there is this one's not necessarily expensive item, but it's relatively difficult to find, and actually it's probably it falls into the unloved category of displays.
Ooh.
And that's the Empire Strikes Back movie rebate display. It's actually a pretty tough find. And then the last one was the was the 3-figure dangler, little shelf talker, tiny little mini plastic display. So those were probably the top 4 of all the displays. As far as like Kenner displays, there's some other cool items in there that were like really difficult finds, not necessarily valuable, but we can talk about that now, or
no. I have to tell you something, okay? So sometimes when we talk on this show, Steve and I will like look stuff up so we have more information. So when you said movie rebate display, I remembered it, but I didn't really have it, so I was thinking maybe I'd find it on the archive, whatever. So if you type in right now, faithful space freaks, movie rebate display, ESB, the first hit is vintage Star Wars trade for tiki mugs at Tiki Central. So this guy who goes by Ooga Mooga is the Tiki Man. He has pictures of his entire Star Wars collection. You can see the entire find that they just made in nice little pictures on TikiRoom.com.
Oh man,
you
guys got to look it up. Do you mind me saying that there's such detailed pictures?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of after the fact. So that's actually not even where Isaac found the guy. I think he posted. I don't know. He posted that after the fact, Isaac, or what?
I think that was right around the same time.
Yes,
right around the same time.
But that's like from 2011 or something.
Yes, it's from 2011. And there's great posts afterwards. Someone goes from Trekkie to Tiki, good trade. And they were like, oh, yeah, but it's Star Wars, not Star Trek. And also, you had a pretty sweet bootleg Darth Vader ceramic, not bootleg, but whatever, a craft sit lacquered black mug. Now, have you plugged that in yet?
Actually, I haven't. No, we plugged it in at FedEx. Didn't you plug it in at FedEx?
Oh yeah, we did. Awesome.
Yeah, and the inner lights, I don't think there were inner lights to it. I think it was just the regular lamp, even though it had the holes. And I think you're the one who was telling me to somehow come up with some LED lighting for the inside. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's neat. The bonus rebate movie poster. It's pretty cool because it's got like 3PO and R2D2, and then a whole bunch of pictures of toys underneath. It's a very kind of charming poster, and I mean display. I don't think I'd really ever pay attention to it until I was looking at it while playing my rank guitar. And the whole thing was like she wouldn't cut anything unless it was really careful. So eventually, Will just jumped behind the counter with his own box cutter from his own pocket and was just cutting willy-nilly. And she's like, "Oh my! Oh, hope there's no video. Oh boy! Oh boy!"
I really just couldn't take it anymore. It was just so painful watching me trying to watch her pack the things. It was funny. Like when we first started out, she said something to the effect of, "Oh, great, yeah, I just had training on this box." I'm like, "Okay, good. So you'll be really proficient at putting this together." And then she started and like, oh my gosh, on. And she I mean, like literally, she'd take like 15 minutes to put one box together, and then.
Now I have to say,
I couldn't believe, Skye, that you just hung out with us like on numerous occasions. Like, Skye, it's cool, man. You don't have to feel like you're obliged to stay with us. You can go home and sleep. You got kids and all that. So I really appreciate that. That was really nice of you to kind of hang with us the whole time.
I mean, you have to understand that, like, I really enjoy thinking about Star Wars toys, and so there's so much stuff. Like, I would just sit there and like look at the side of the Darth Vader, the Death Star playset, and like, I never really looked at that much, and just think about stuff, and it was really fun. I must say, I know it's kind of a topic, Steve. Actually, maybe we could talk about it a little bit because I got called out by Ron. Because last month I was saying that I both said that I had no idea who this Mark Palomo character was, who wrote this book. And then I also said that it's great there's all these other podcasts and how much I liked Galaxy of Toys. And then Ron's like, Mark Belomo's been on Galaxy of Toys like 10 times. Like, how did you not hear it? And so, like, my whole thing is I don't listen to every other podcast. I listen to some of them. I usually listen to, either Star Wars Forum UK or Galaxy of Toys. Like, every couple months, like, I'll listen to a couple of them in a row.
Yeah.
So I'm not too uptight about people knowing our show or listening to it a lot. But it was pretty funny, Steve, because they kept on making references to the laser discs. And Will's like, the laser discs will sell. I'm like, what laser discs? And Isaac's like, yeah, we can sell the laser discs. I'm like, and I picked them up, and they were CEDs, capacitance electronic devices. And I'm like, capacitance. And they're like, yes, capacitance. And they just didn't react. And it didn't bother me.
Funny.
It didn't bother me that they hadn't listened to the show. It bothered me that they missed the chance to truly have a wonderful experience of finding capacitances in the wild. So since then, Isaac sent me a text saying, "I just listened to the capacitance. It's hilarious." So
About a week too late. Right?
That is Steve's other focus. So that was very funny. Like, the Laserdisc will sell. What? This is a capacitance. So it was really cool. I got to tell them what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like the I guess there's CEDs, but that's also another. It was interesting to see all the other like oddball stuff that I really have never really focused on or paid too much attention to. It was interesting to see all the different paperwork and advertising and little clippings that that this guy had saved. And so that was really neat to see all that stuff, and that was really fun to go through all that stuff as well. So I don't know, that was just a little bonus.
Yeah, he had like some really cool like non-Kenner displays too. Like there's like a belt display for the old Star Wars belts. Kind of lists the address of the place, like San Francisco, California.
Oh, that thing was awesome. Yeah, it was a display for belts. That was like the most Todd Chamberlain-y thing I've ever seen. I was like, I'd never heard of it. I wasn't really aware of it. It was very awesome, and it looked insanely rare.
Yeah, there are also some rare pajamas that came with this thing, and actually Isaac was he was teasing me a bit, and when we were talking last week, he pretended that I guess one of his girlfriends used the pajamas, and I got a little bit upset that he let his girlfriend put on the pajamas because they were a super rare item. But it turns out he I don't know. From what he says, he was just joking. I'm not sure if he was really joking or not, or whether once he sensed my anger, he changed the story and somehow was going to dry clean the pajamas and rewrap them. I don't know. So
I'll pretend that I'm free from sorrow. So
this is another thing that happened. So I was sitting there eating ribs at 12:30 with Isaac and Vil, and they were talking to me about how they hated this term "in the wild." Mm-hmm. And first of all, apparently it's a term that's used a lot on Facebook, and I am just starting to use Facebook now, which, by the way, Steve, we got to get people to like our Facebook page. We're not even up to 500 yet.
I know. It's kind of sad.
I just posted like my collection photos. They're pretty good photos, and I'm going to erase them probably tomorrow. So if you weren't, there'll be stuff that only shows up on our Facebook feed. We need more input there. But they were talking about this term "in the wild." So what does the term mean, Will, and why do you hate it?
I don't know what it means really. Does it mean like you're going commando? Does it mean you're running naked through the woods? Or what does "in the wild" mean? I really don't know.
I know you're joking, but I was actually prepared for this question. So I was really trying to come up with a good definition for this. And this is what I came up with basically. Something that is something that you find or that you buy that is not from another collector. I think that's the most general term that you could apply.
But how about if it's like from an original collector, like the Tiki Mug Man, right? So he he originally got the stuff, and he was a collector of the stuff.
Right.
Right.
Right, but I think that still falls into the category. So I guess you would have to have some sort of cutoff.
Okay, I'm going to let Isaac talk.
No, so I mean, I know Will's trying to bust my chops over this exact definition, but I think in general, I think we all know what it means. But if I buy something from Will, that's not necessarily in the wild. But if I guess you could say that this find was sort of, I mean, no, it was in the wild, meaning it didn't come from another toy dealer, it didn't come from another active modern day collector. And you could debate what modern day active collector means, but it's a general feeling, I think.
Okay, can I add a caveat? Can I add a caveat of also not off of eBay? Because a lot of people sell things on eBay, they're not collectors, and that's not in the wild. So not on eBay, not from an active collector, and that's how you define it.
Oh, what if like Isaac, you said buying something from me doesn't count as like in the wild. But what if I was wearing a loincloth and living out in the woods, and you came to my cabin, and then you bought like a 12-act Darth Vader for me? Would that be in the wild?
Yes.
Hey, Steve?
Yeah.
Have you noticed a lot of sexual tension between Isaac and Will on the show? Lots of talk about like getting breakfast together and girlfriends and pajamas and stuff and loincloths. It's well, anyways, I think it's an interesting question about should the term be used. So Isaac, Will, I really enjoy the fact that you have lots of strongly held opinions that don't appear to be based on much reasoning or logic other than just disliking people. Because I'm very much the same way. So first you came out against the term in the wild, which I kind of understand just because I think the main objection to it is that it comes off as kind of elitist or sort of like it's like special, which is like, is it, I just want a thing off of eBay that I'm really excited about, is that less special than if I had talked to my neighbor and his grandmother had a whole bunch of Star Wars toys in the closet, is that different or not? Now the other one, Will, was that you didn't want to call it the hobby anymore. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I don't know. What does that mean? Again, I asked the question, what does the hobby mean? Is that like stamp collecting, or is that like coin collecting, or what's the hobby? How did that term even come around, and like why does that refer to like vintage Star Wars collecting as the hobby? I don't understand it more than anything.
Do you also dislike vintage because there's so many things that are vintage?
I like vintage. I like vintage. No reasoning behind it. I really don't have any reasoning or logic behind my opinions. They're just there.
Right. So kivecast@gmail.com. Do you have an alternate name for the vintage Star Wars collecting hobby? I spent a lot of time that night trying to figure out what we should call it. I didn't come up with many answers. What do you think, Steve?
Is it the Chive Cast still, or is it? I thought you switched it to the Chive Cast.
There is actually now a podcast by the Chive. So yes. There is a Chive podcast. We're not affiliated with them.
No.
And there's also a vintage pod.
I'm digging up old skeletons here.
Yeah, you are. It's actually the Chowie Cast. The V is pronounced like a W.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Chowie. I like it.
All right, well then let's break out of this conversation. And what do you say? I don't know, Steve. See, the problem is, they gave me a couple of these weird oddball things that they found in their collection, and so we actually haven't talked about Luke Hoth in a while.
That's true.
I would like to, before we go to a nugget out of nowhere, talk about something, Steve. It's called Reed. Now, Isaac and Will, do you remember giving me Reed?
Giving you what?
Yeah, it was some like little pamphlet or something that we gave you.
Yeah, it's a black and white pamphlet with green, And I looked it up. So this is talk about meat. This thing is amazing. So it's from 1980. It's from May 1980. It's actually made by the Xerox Corporation. So out of Rochester, although it was published in Columbus. And it features on the cover, Steve, completely unloved, Luke on a tauntaun.
Huh.
And as far as I can tell, it's one of the most bizarre Luke Hoth items. That's our figure of the month.
Right.
And it includes this cavalcade of inaccuracies about Empire Strikes Back. So
really?
the whole magazine is designed to get kids excited about reading, in particular about reading in English.
Okay.
So it's educational, informative, and unbiased. That's what they say. And their whole goal is a magazine for reading in English. So let me start off with reading it to you here. It's 10:15 on a Wednesday morning, and I sit daydreaming at my desk. A mere 6 inches from the tip of my nose, a ferocious Chewbacca bares his teeth. Nearby, Luke Skywalker struggles for his life against the deadly blows of Snaggletooth. And off to one side, Princess Leia looks on, fear casting a shadow over her lovely face. To my left looms Darth Vader. I shudder at the sight of his ominous black cape. No less frightening, though. It's made of plastic. That's right, plastic. Alas. These are not the real heroes of Star Wars. They are only the toy, quote, action figures I bought at the store. So, pretty cool. Starts off with Kenner. This is where it starts getting strange. But these toy likenesses can still make the wheels of memory spin as I recall the last glimpse of my Star Wars pals. How could I ever forget the lightsaber duel in which Obi-Wan Kenobi stalled Darth Vader so that Princess Leia and company could escape in the Millennium Falcon? Debatable. Or the eye-boggling explosion when the Death Star disintegrated into a billion bullets of fire. Or Chewbacca's embarrassed groan as Princess Leia slipped the gold medal of honor around his hairy neck. No, I can't forget them. Their memory only makes me eager to see them again. So isn't that great that he's like, who could forget this thing that definitely didn't happen? Okay, so then this person apparently saw an early screening of Empire Strikes Back, or maybe Steve just read the script, because so when it hits theaters on May 21st, this is what you'll be treated to see. Did Obi-Wan Kenobi really die when Darth Vader's lightsaber struck him down? What startling piece of news will Luke Skywalker learn about his real father? Will Darth Vader's newly hired henchman Boba Fett succeed in capturing Han Solo? But I don't really intend to tantalize you with a game of 20 questions. As a matter of fact, I have quite a few details on the new adventures of Princess Leia and her fellow freedom fighters, so read on. Yes, Darth Vader will return, brandishing his lightsaber and wheezing menacingly through his face mask. He will launch a ruthless campaign to convert Luke to the Imperial cause, and his weapons will be many and dangerous. Darth Vader will use an electronic torture act to try and break the spirits of the Alliance leaders. He will make use of specially trained garbage collectors to hunt down R2-D2 and C-3PO. Their mission? To smash the robots into bits and melt them down. So I suppose that's Ugnaughts?
Yeah, I guess so.
Specially trained garbage collectors?
I like that. That's a good description for them.
He will create a giant space slug. A slug that is like a snail without the shell, that can suck an entire spaceship into its huge metal mouth. When all else fails, Darth Vader will turn a devilish chamber that freezes a body live and then encases it in a thick metal coating. So it kind of goes on from there. And it ends with, Luke, of course, sets off immediately to aid his friends, thereby falling into his deadly trap. Darth Vader has laid for him. The two archenemies meet. And then suddenly, wait a minute, you don't want me to tell you the ending now, do you? Of course not. That would spoil the show. So, I think if you read this, you would really have a confused thing like, specially trained garbage collectors whose goal is to smash them and melt them down?
They're interesting, like, degrees of truth. You can see they're where, someone got something from the actual story and just kind of decided to take their own spin on it.
Who could forget Chewbacca's embarrassed groan? So, thank you very much, Will and Isaac. That provided some great content for the show.
Yeah, I didn't even read it. I mean, it says read on it, but I didn't read it. Is that bad?
And then the other thing is, there's a whole collection of these like business cards. Have you ever seen these, Steve?
I don't know which ones you're talking about just yet.
So they were like made by fans, assumedly for conventions, and they just made them up for the characters in Star Wars, and they're just these goofy business cards, and they're beautiful. So the one I'm going to read to you now is the Cantina, and it says the Cantina, Mos Eisley Spaceport, Tatooine, SS Tattoo, live entertainment, progressive jazz quartet. BYOB, bring your own blaster. Convicts and villains welcome, no droids allowed. But I'll put a picture up of it. It's just this simple one-color business card. But I just love the idea that someone went to all the effort to make these business cards.
Yeah.
So I'll read one of those every month.
Awesome.
Well, we're just blowing through all these conversation topics, eh, Steve?
That's okay.
All right, what do you say we get to the nugget?
All right, sounds good.
All right.
'Tis a nugget from the archive. 'Tis a nugget.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
From the archive.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
So Steve has a nugget, and I haven't even really looked at it. So why don't we let Isaac talk about the nugget this month?
Okay.
Luke on Tauntaun Teapot. So this is a piece that I always thought was really cool, actually. But I always wondered, like, who really actually, if anyone ever used this. So it's made by Sigma, which is actually, it's weird. It's like a Japanese marketing company. It's a division of a Japanese marketing company.
Really?
Yeah, they did like place settings, like bowls and cups, and then they did, I guess this Star Wars line, and I'm not sure that they did much else. I tried to find what else they did, because I always thought the Sigma line was kind of a little underrated. I thought it was really neat, and I still do. And it's kind of like a little side focus of mine, which we could talk about later. That's another topic. I don't know what focus is. So basically, this is a teapot in the shape of a tauntaun that's kind of like on top of a snow, like a mound of snow, and then Luke is riding it. That sounds awful, but basically, it's Luke on a tauntaun as a teapot. It's kind of neat, but it seems a little. I don't know if I would use it on an actual. I don't drink tea, so I don't know. But if I did, I don't know. I would actually. If I did, I don't know that I would use.
Well, it's great because the mound of snow, it kind of reminds you, like, we were actually talking earlier about the sculptor who did Luke Hoth, and he would often do the leaning leaning characters, and if you actually go back to Renaissance sculpture, which is what he was impressed by and what he was kind of imitating, they would try to show that you could show people in dynamic poses leaning and everything, but you'd always have to put little shrubbery or something at their feet to make sure they wouldn't fall over.
Right.
So when I first saw this, I thought it was a sculpture, and the guy just did not know how to make something that would stand up. But really, all this snow is just so you could put water in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense. That makes really. I never thought about that, but there you go.
It's funny that Isaac, you mentioned Sigma as a marketing company, and I didn't realize this either, but Derek, Uncle Gundy, he had recently posted like a sample of one of these on, I think it was on Facebook, one of the Facebook groups, and the sample sticker, it says Sigma Marketing Systems Inc. Japan, and I just had never seen that before, made that connection, so it's interesting that you brought that up. It makes, I guess it makes sense now, that, in a weird way. But yeah, they definitely made some strange things. Some of my favorite things. That's why I wanted to try and find something that people do love, but it's not related to the figure. I wanted to try and find something different.
Yeah. So if that's one of the things that you collect, Isaac, what's like the holy grail of Sigma collectors? What's the hardest thing to find in the Sigma line?
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Seeing as you're the big expert.
No, I never said I was an expert. I just thought they were really cool, and I kind of collected them on the side. But I think the most expensive. I know that Luke Luke on Tauntaun Teapot is considered one of the better pieces, as opposed to, say, like the character mugs. I think the Spice Noodles band is also pretty expensive. But I'm not sure what the Holy Grail is.
Okay, well, Chivecast at gmail.com. This actually leads to another one of our conversation topics, which was that you guys are really big, and I just spent a whole weekend with Yehuda, so I feel like I'm surrounded by people who don't believe in having a focus. So, what's your beef, guys? What's your beef about foci? Do you have a beef with people who have a focus, Will?
Yeah, no, I don't discriminate against all focus collectors. I just think like sometimes doing a focus can kind of get you into a rut where you all of a sudden, in the beginning it's great, I'm collecting, every single, Klaatu item there is out there, and then all of a sudden you come to a point where, I can't get anything more, and then there's nothing more to collect, and then basically they kind of, I don't know, it seems like there's been sometimes like an implosion of these focus collectors when they reach a point where like, I can't get anything more, so I'm not going to collect anymore. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and again, I don't want to sound like a complete ass about this, but sometimes there's like this, it appears to be like this sense of entitlement for like certain items. So if somebody happens to be a focus collector for this particular character, then all the stuff needs to go to that particular person. And I don't like that mindset. I love collecting Star Wars stuff, and I don't want to feel limited by a particular character. I'd rather just collect whatever I particularly like. And then, and I also don't want to feel obliged to say, okay, well, I found this Klaatu item. Now I feel obliged to, maybe offer this to the Klaatu person first.
Right. That's interesting. I think, because as you may know, the panel that I'm giving at Celebration is with the Bills, McBride and Cable, and we actually talk about the end, like when it feels like you get to the end of the line and what you can do when you feel as though there's nothing else left to buy. I think we go into that. I don't think we quite go into the entitled thing, because it's hard when you're a focus collector not to feel entitled.
Yeah, Will and I are protesting that panel, just so you know.
We're gonna be out there like
picketing,
yeah. No, well, I mean, I'm also on the impression to each his own, and that's fine. You can collect whatever you like, but me in particular, I don't ever envision myself becoming a focus collector.
Yeah, it's funny because even though I am a focus collector, my issue is that it often seems as though people treat it as something compulsory, and I mean I know that I was a focus collector before I collected vintage, so that's like a weird thing. Like I made that decision.
I think that's kind of a unique situation for you, Skye. I mean, I don't think that happens that often.
So I can't even really imagine what it would be like to just say, to see a Klaatu and buy a Klaatu just because, like that must be very freeing, but it's horrifying for me just because my, it's so nice not having to think about what's cool, having to think about what's cool of the stuff that I get. So I am kind of worried.
Yeah, like that being said, we just did this huge find of all this cool stuff, and we were limited by a focus, and we wouldn't even be interested in most of the stuff. However, when we went through the stuff, we were looking through and like, here's this cool Chewbacca business card. This would be awesome for Skye. He'd love this, or whatever. The same thing with the necklace, and we gave you the plates too, which you already had. So I think there's definitely positive aspects to it, but like I said, me in particular, I don't like it for my own collecting.
Right. Well, speaking of another thing that you gave me, I want to do a market watch, Steve.
Oh, okay.
I know we haven't done the Unloved yet, but we don't have Will for all the time in the world. So I would like to do a combo market watch.
Okay.
I want to do a 2015 market watch and a 1986 market watch.
Okay.
So part of the whole thing is Isaac and Will they has a huge box that they just wanted shipped, like the slowest way possible, because it was just filled with like coloring books and just kind of junk they didn't care that much about.
Right. Okay.
But I hate to tell you, Isaac, you made a huge mistake, because on the very top of it, you included the official price guide to Star Trek and Star Wars collectibles by Sue Cornwall and Michael Cott from 1986.
That's where that went. We were wondering.
Yeah, it's there, and this book is like the coolest thing I have ever read. So we're going to do a combo market watch.
Okay.
$1 Vlix. Market Watch. Okay, Steve. So let's see. Why don't we start with Fantastic Pete? Right?
Okay. All right.
So he had some interesting foreign carded figures, right?
Yes. He had a couple of them. Uh-huh.
Okay. So what was the first one?
So the first one was a Clipper C-3PO from the Netherlands that went for just over $4,100, $4,161. It's definitely not the craziest thing we've seen.
No. And then let's see here.
Do you want to toggle back in time for?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a question. Okay. In 1986. There is a Star Wars item that is worth the following mint uncarded figures. Okay? So I'm putting together a trade. Okay?
All right.
And I'm going to make you go ahead in this trade. I'm going to trade you all 12 backs, mint on carded. I am going to throw in Yoda and Boba Fett. All debut cards, all mint on card. What would you trade for all of those? Now, it's a little bit hard because the item I'm asking for is actually worth more than the first 12 figures, Yoda and Boba Fett. So I don't know if you'd be willing to make this trade, but it's a Darth Vader speakerphone. So, according to the price guide, the Darth Vader speakerphone was produced by ATC, an AT&T branch, 14 inches, extremely high-quality collectible, limited production. So that's worth $150 in 1986. And every 12 back is worth $10 or $15. And Boba Fett is worth $5, and Yoda is worth $5.
Oh...
How many reverse mans? How many nams does that get? Isn't that awesome, though?
Oh, wow.
Like, I just looked through trying to find anything that cracked 3 digits. And, like, this phone, which I looked it up, and on eBay right now, do you know how much that goes for? Wait, let's see. Will might know. Will, how much do you think a Darth Vader speakerphone goes for now?
I don't know, like $47.
Well, I see you buy it now around $70 to $100. So
I would only pay $47.
So that means if in 1986 you used this price guide and you decided to go for that trade, you would have had a net loss of about $70 versus, I don't know, what, $15,000 if you had gone for the carded figures. So there's one trip back to the guide to Star Trek and Star Wars. What's the next figure, Steve, in the market watch?
All right, so the next we got an Italian Yoda, the Harbert. And this one isn't graded, but it sold for $5,675.
Yeah, no, that Harbert Yoda, that's a tough one. It's like highly sought after. So I would say it's a more popular piece than just a random C-3PO Clipper card. So if it sold for about $5,000 and the Clipper C-3PO sold for $4,000.
I gotta say, the bubble is wicked yellow on this.
That's true.
It would just bother me about it being shipped. You know what I miss? I miss seeing who bought the items. Don't you miss that?
Oh, yeah. I miss that a lot.
Because it used to.
Yeah. I think I've posted something like that one time or sent an email or something, and no one cared. But I thought that was a huge turning point in
that's a big change.
The
yeah.
hobby. I just think that was
the what? What did you call it?
The hobby. But I don't know. I used to love seeing what other people bid on and you find kind of neat stuff. And I know people kind of hated that, but I thought that was like a huge part of what I used to do routinely. And now that's completely gone.
Stalk people on a regular basis.
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
I remember that was my introduction into the hobby. Was at Celebration 3 was Todd Hudson talking to Derek about how they both said, "Who the hell is Skyrock?" Because I just showed up and just started buying all the Chewie stuff from what they felt was out of nowhere, and now that never would happen. They would never associate me with that.
Yeah, you would never know, and it's just all anonymous now, which is a shame. But I kind of understand where they're going with it.
So Steve,
all right,
what do you think an authenticated original set used Star Wars script would sell for?
In 1986?
What would it sell for now, do you think?
Now? God, I don't know. I feel like there was some kind of similar thing that was being sold for around $10,000 or something like that not that long ago. It may not have been a script. It was some kind of production material. But so are you talking about 1986, though, right? Back in time?
Yeah, 1986.
Production used script? $100?
Nope, it was $200.
Oh, okay.
So just kind of neat. It was strange that it doesn't seem like that should be in a price guide.
Right. Yeah, it's an outlier.
So you just kind of get the sense that he sort of had them, and then it immediately goes into bulletin boards and stationery and school supplies. It's pretty cool because a lot of the things have definitions, and they explain what things are. Like they had to explain the micro collection. Micro collections were an attempt by Kenner to diversify their Star Wars line. These sets came with posed, painted die-cast metal figures. These sets should not be confused with those made for larger action figures.
Wow.
All right. So what's the last one of our Fratastic Pete crazy foreign items?
Okay, so the last one, it's a vinyl cape Jawa on a Toltoys Empire Strikes Back card. And then the interesting thing about this one is that I guess when the guy originally sent it to get authenticated, it was only partially attached to the bubble was only partially attached, and they decided once it was graded that it was better to just have it encased on the card. But anyway, it sold for $31.99. But I mean, and the interesting thing about it too is if you read the note from CIB, there's just an odd phrase in there about how we were authenticating this, but we're not authenticating it in the way that we normally would guarantee with other items, just because of how unique it is. So I don't know. That's just kind of basically it. But
I don't get this thing at all.
Yeah, it's odd.
So if you look at it, do either of you know anything more about this, Will or Isaac?
Yeah, the Jawa I think is basically a little bit different. I think the plastic for the legs and torso I think gets speckled, the figure, and I think the cape. I can't remember if the cape is slightly different also. But yeah, there's definitely legitimate vinyl cape Jawa on Empire Strikes Back cards that were supposedly only released in Australia.
Yeah, but have you actually seen what this thing looks like? It's
got a. Oh, you mean how they did the case on it?
Yeah, it's like an AFA case inside.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a loose figure with, it's a loose figure, but they paired it with the card back that it supposedly came off of. What does that mean? I mean, how do you know it came with that? So yeah, I agree with the oddballness of the auction and how it's put together.
But yeah. I mean, I don't know, how much do vinyl Cape Jawas go for now anyways? How much would an Australian vinyl Cape Jawa go for? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, there was
$199.
I don't know. There was some like big discussion on that on Rebel Scum. I don't know, a few years ago. I don't know if you guys remember that. I'm sure one of the listeners will remember and post a link to it.
Yes, kivecast@gmail.com. Or actually, I don't know how people respond to our show, Steve. It's like 5 different Facebook pages and the forums, and the only place I know they don't is on our blog. No one comments on our blog.
It's just there for posterity, Skye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, going back to 1986, it's pretty interesting that posters really did seem to be where it was at. That seemed to be one of the big things. Was I mean, it's not in line with what it is today, but still, like a one-sheet advance poster was $400, and like a lot of things would be in the higher levels. And then what I remember from looking at this book in the 80s, and I wanted to check to see if that's correct, it is still very much true that the concept was that 12-inch figures were it. Action figure large, that was it. So a Boba Fett, a 3 3/4 Boba Fett was worth $10, but a boxed doll was worth $250. And this was where the IG-88 was $400. And I remember looking at it.
Right.
That's the thing. If you looked at this and wanted to see what's the most valuable thing you could get from Kenner, that was your answer by far. It was the most valuable thing. And then, Steve, just to ask, so how much more is a Boba Fett Return of the Jedi action figure? How much more is that worth than a B-Wing pilot action figure?
Oh, man. $10.
Nope, they're the same price.
All right, hey.
All Return of the Jedi action figures are worth $3. And all Empire figures are worth $5.
Even playing field, man. Even playing field.
That's right. Maybe that's why there's so many B-Wing pilots out there. They were just still sitting out there. Someone had this book, and they were like, I'm going to be counting the cash.
Cool.
Oh, yeah,
I like that. That was good that you had that with you to do the dual market watch. Good, that was fun.
Yeah, well, I was very excited to see it in the box that I was supposed to send off already. But then I guess probably the last thing we should do is the next part of the market watch, which is the game. So this will be very exciting. So Will has to go, but we'll make this an exciting thing. So Steve, how does this work?
All right, so we're going to do the Vlix is right, for a couple Luke Hoth items?
Sure.
Okay. So I have a handful that Mike had sent me. Let's see what I got. I can pull up the list. All right, one sec. Okay. So we're going to do 3 different Empire Luke Hoths. 45, 47, and 48. I'm going to pick just one of the random ones that sold, and I guess the 3 of you can put in your guess as to what you think it sold for.
So,
all right,
so we'll write it down on a piece of paper. You have 3 seconds to write it down. So you write down a piece of paper. You can't lie. If you lie, I don't know. Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen.
I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do yet, so I'm not sure how I'd lie about it.
Oh, I'm afraid I have to take 10 points away from you, Will. Okay. So he's going to say a figure, and you're going to have to make a guess, and whoever's closest gets the point.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, and we're talking prices here, right?
Yeah, we're talking prices for carded Luke Hoths that sold on eBay. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, so the first one up.
Got it.
Okay, so the first one up, we'll do a 45 back, Empire Strikes Back, Luke Hoth, AFA 80 yellow. So it has yellow bubble. To make it simple, we're going to go with you first. What was your guess for a Luke Hoth AFA yellow 80 Empire Strikes Back 45 back?
Okay, so that's okay. I'd say like $400.
400. Okay. Skye.
I said 258.
Okay. Isaac.
I said 151.
151. That one goes to Skye. It was a $227 figure.
What do you say when I say, are you somebody? Damn right I'm somebody.
Wow.
So 0.1 for Skye. All right. Okay, up next, we got a 47 back Empire Luke Hoth. AFA 70 yellow. So another yellow bubble Luke Hoth. Give you a second.
My first again?
Yeah, let's just... Will, you go first.
Okay. $150.
Okay. Skye?
Pretty close. I said 109.
Okay. Isaac?
168.
168. Well, Isaac does take this one. It sold for 300.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. But
Was it
Five mans.
US? It was
Five mans,
It was US.
five
It wasn't like Canadian or something.
no, it was just as far as I can tell, it was just a regular 47 back.
So this is when you can say that the market isn't always determined by eBay, because it's very often just whoever's bidding and whatever's going on, because there's no explaining why $150 would get you a lower grade. Huh. Unless you just... Yeah.
That's a weird one.
It is funny. Is this the first yellow figure that we've seen? Like, I do think of him as being quite yellow figured, yellow bubbled.
Right. Yeah, he's in that kind of wave where that starts to happen. That's for sure. But yeah, that's an anomaly. So I just knew whoever was going to pick the highest was going to get that one. So
okay, well, we're all tied except for Will.
You can have a 3-way tie if we.
I'm at -10 right now, right?
All right. Okay. So up next, we have a 48B, ungraded. And as far as condition, I actually don't have a picture of this one, so you're just gonna have to guess.
48B, so it's basically it's got the sticker on the front and back of 48.
If you listen to the show, Will, you know that I'm the king of the 48Bs. I currently have one. Well, two if you count my Chewy.
You're the king in waiting.
In spirit. I think I had a snipe for this one for around $70, so I know it's higher than that.
Well, thanks for the hint. Let me mark it down real quick. Okay.
All right. Well, what do you got for a 48B ungraded?
48B ungraded.
Just assume it's like average.
Let's go back. Let's go high again. I'm just going to go high and go back to my original $400.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Is this like the price is right if I go over? Or I don't.
No, it's just whoever's closest.
Yeah, whoever gets closest. All right. Skye?
I said 310.
Okay. Isaac?
I said 200.
Well, we have another Isaac winner here. This one was only 83.
I was that close?
You were that close, man. You were that close. Sorry. So Isaac takes it. Hands down, there's no sudden death. No sudden death, as we've had in the past. But,
man,
I have my finger on the pulse of the market watch.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, apparently I don't. So. Or maybe I'm just paying too much for all the stuff I buy.
$600.
Well, it's funny, Steve. We've really mixed things up. Like, we did the script before the Skye coup. I did the movie thought after the figure thought. We've broken up the Nugget and the Unloved. It's just a crazy town. So I do think we should.
Have you done the Skye coup already? Did we miss that? Or?
That'll be a special when you listen, Will.
So in other words,
I mean, like 2.5 years.
Yeah, you'll never hear it. Although, okay, so I want to talk about something that was pretty exciting that has to do with the Market Watch, which is that very often Brisbane Mike will email me an auction that he sees, and I always appreciate it, but I never, ever buy whatever it is he sends me. I don't bid enough or whatever it is. But I have not been this excited for a Chewbacca item I mean, in years. Because finding a carded figure is just really hard, you know? I mean, I've seen them, but they, whatever, like, a Meccano 12 back went up for, whatever, there was that Spanish one that went for $7,000 last year, whatever. But I managed to get, it's a clipper, but it's Return of the Jedi clipper, and it's got the sticker on the front that says, Clipper, Makers van Monopoly. And I realized that's like really rare, isn't it? How often have you seen the clipper Makers von Monopoly? Do you even know what I'm talking about, Steve?
No. I mean, that's definitely something I'm not in tune with.
Okay,
with
Isaac, Will,
stuff.
have you seen the Makers von Monopoly sticker?
Is it that orange and black sticker?
No, so there is like a sort of starburst sticker that says like new year, nouveau, new year. But then it's another one.
Yeah.
And it's like it's got like a swirl on it, and it's like just blue and white, I think. And it just says, Makers.
It's like the Parker Brothers swirl. Right?
Exactly, yeah, it's the Parker Brothers swirl. And anyways, it was. I just bought it on a bin. I don't know if I overpaid or underpaid or whatever. I could care less because I've got so much saved up chi for buying carded Chewbacca figures. But yeah, I don't know. I just sort of wanted to throw that out there. Like, does anyone else? What do people know about the Makers von Monopoly? Because obviously they make Parker Brothers makes Monopoly, and that's what they're advertising. But I even looked up. Remember DeJeems, Steve?
Oh, wait a minute. Was that a Rebel Scum user?
Yeah. He had that really cool site for Clipper.
Oh, right. Yeah. That rings a bell.
Yeah, and he just and I looked up on his site. I didn't even see very many things with that on there. Yeah, so it's anyways for a Focus collector, Isaac and Will. That's just about the most exciting thing you can have, like a different card front, a different offer, and that's not even true for Steve because Steve doesn't collect production.
There's not much to collect.
Well, if you were looking around for one of these, Steve, you'd be pretty psyched.
Oh no, I agree. I'm not discounting that one bit.
Yeah. So, anyways, I definitely encourage people to send me links to 48Bs and Chewbacca's. I don't think I'll ever win a 48B, but
that'll just be your chase figure, so getting the 48Bs.
Yeah.
I just found a link to that Clipper Makers von Monopoly on trilogo.info, actually. And he's got a section under the carded figure guide, and there's a section called import stickers. And it has that Clipper Makers von Monopoly listed on there. And he says a little bit about it. So it says that they were, those stickers can be found on Trilogos. The Starburst logo is more common, but both are still. You have to see it. It's pretty interesting. So Trilogo.info. I had never seen that.
I think I'd maybe seen that sticker before, but with so much of these stickers, when it's not on my figure, I just don't really care about it. So I never really noticed. But it's really hard to find Return of the Jedi era carded figures with any non-Kenner logo on it. Because most places, Lily Lady obviously has it. Oh, pronunciation time. Is that correct, Lily Lady, Isaac?
Dialogues.
You say, and I say,
Who's I? A Chive Cast pronunciation guide.
Stormtrooper.
Lily Lady.
It's Lady, not Lady?
It's not Lady. It'd be Lady.
Lady.
But that's a weird, that'd be interesting to, I don't remember, I know that there were two either toy lines or toy companies that merged together. One was Lily and one was Letty, but I don't remember. That'd be an interesting story I don't know if you've done a Lily Letty episode yet or.
Not really. No, not in depth. That's.
There's a cool, I know this is going on a tangent, but there's a cool toy museum in Mexico City, in like the worst part of Mexico City. There's a really cool vintage toy museum that I went to with Luis and Josefina one time, and And that's pretty awesome. And they have a bunch of Lily Letty toys and other Mexican toys there, and they're all vintage, so it's pretty cool.
Wow. Now, when you say the worst part of Mexico City, that has to be hyperbole, right?
Well, I was sitting in the front seat of a cab with my sunglasses hanging on my shirt collar, and and the windows were open, and Luis said, put your sunglasses away because someone will probably snatch them from your shirt. So I don't know. That's, that was not very comforting. But yeah, I don't know. Apparently, it's a really bad neighborhood. I think I looked it up on Wikipedia. And it was like one of the worst neighborhoods.
Wow.
In Mexico City. But we went anyway because you gotta go see the toys.
The same thing that kept me at FedEx until 5 o'clock in the morning is the same thing that sent you to the Lily Letty Museum. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, anyways, so returning to my original point, it's really hard to find. But let's see if we can do that. What Return of the Jedi carded figures have non-Kenner logos on them? Lily Letty. Is that it?
Meccano.
Yes,
right.
Oh. Well,
I don't know. Will's supposed to be the carded action figure guy. What do you know? Anything about this, Will? Or have you already gone to sleep?
It's pronounced Makers Van Monopoly, not Mockers Von Monopoly. Come on, you guys.
It's my Maker's van. It'd be a good pseudonym if you had to check into a convention without even knowing who you are. Yes, I'm Mackers Von Monopoly.
No, I don't know. Like Meccano. But you're saying something that doesn't have the Kenner logo on the front. So yeah.
But Meccano doesn't usually have the logo on Jedi cards.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they maybe did.
It's lacking the Kenner logo.
Right, and there's plenty that don't have the Kenner logo. What I mean is foreign logos on carded figures.
I see what you mean.
That just happens to be increasingly hard to find. It's easy in the beginning because you have Harbert and you have Meccano and you have all those guys, and then Empire it gets a little bit harder. And then by the time you get to Jedi, you either have nothing, or you have Kenner. But anyways, that was my exciting purchase. So it's cool that we brought up trylogo.info, which does mention a little bit about the Maker's Van Monopoly. And that's actually one of the sites that we probably don't reference enough. And another one that we don't reference enough, Steve, is out of the Great White North.
Yes. We're going for our unloved...
Yes. So let's hit the unloved drop and come back on the other side.
You don't hate, only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. The unloved and the unnatural.
All right, Steve. So this is my thing. We always get lots of good feedback from Scott Bradley, Canada's greatest know-it-all.
Canada's greatest know-it-all.
And so you were smart because he always mentions the Canadian stuff that we miss. So you were smart. You went and found an unloved item, and then you immediately looked it up on his site, which is, I would put in the pantheon of top vintage Star Wars sites. It's very, very good.
It's really comprehensive.
I will say that its URL is not particularly doesn't grab you. It's like I'd like to buy a vowel. It's like web.ncf.ca. That's.
I think that kind of just speaks to its longevity.
That's true.
You know what I mean? It has a very old school URL, which to me just means it just shows it's been around for a long time. And yeah, it's an awesome site. It's true. We often will either mention something on the show and neglect the fact that there's so much more detail about it on the Canadian gallery. But it's for this one. This is actually, it sounds similar in a weird way to your magazine you're talking about in the sense that it has the Luke Hoth image. But what it is, it's these General Mills cereal booklets from 1983. And there was a set of, I think, 8 of them, right? Yeah. So there's 8 booklets. 6 of them are for Return of the Jedi because it's timed around the release of that movie. But there are 2 that are for the earlier movies. You have one Star Wars one with R2 and 3PO and another one with Luke Hoth. And I don't know. I mean, they're interesting in the sense of like a kind of odd promotional piece that I just wouldn't have thought about until really digging for it. But it's on the archive with the image. It has that kind of nice pinkish purple top with both the French and English title.
So they were only available in Canada, I suppose.
Yes, yeah. And there was 8 of them, as I said. So they were packaged in cereals, like Count Chocula, Frankenberry, Cheerios, Trix, all the General Mills brands. But what's interesting is that, I guess, according to Scott's site, some came in a large plastic wrap with a rebate coupon for Parker Brothers or Atari video game cartridges for things just like the Empire Strikes Back game and the Jedi Arena game. And then others were just, packed by themselves. But yeah, so they depicted scenes from the movies and, narrative about the different trilogy subjects or whatnot.
I'd love to see that Emperor one. How often do you see the Emperor sitting alone in his throne room? Like, he's not doing the weird finger thingy, and there's no one fighting in front of him. He's just sitting there like a spider in his web. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. And then there's also, they also showcase the toys for the Jedi line in these. But yeah, it's just cool. I mean, I think the archive entries from Gus's collection, which makes sense given the serial
right.
tie. But I mean, they almost have a weird kind of trading card look to them. So when I first saw it, I didn't really get that it was a booklet and had other stuff. So I mean, honestly, I would love to see what was on the inside of these. So if Scott or whoever else might have one of these in their collection could maybe send us some pictures of what's inside the booklet, that would be awesome.
I actually have a whole set of those.
Oh yeah?
I don't know if I told you guys that before, but yeah, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I lived in Canada when I was a kid during that promo, and I collected those. And I would, I had almost the entire set, except I was missing like 2 of them, and it would come out in like Honey Nut Cheerios or whatever.
Right.
And I would try to complete the set, but I could never like get number 5 and number 8. And I had like multiples of all the other ones, and the number 5, number 8, for whatever reason, I never got. And then at some point, I don't know, a few years ago, I wanted to like complete the set, and I was just tired of looking for these things because I could never find anyone who's selling them, or there might have been some that came up on eBay at one point and I missed out on them. And then I put out an offer. I'm like, I'll pay like $50 a piece for each of those. And someone came up and sold me each one of them, number 5 and number 8, for $50 a piece. So yeah, they're really cool. They show pictures of the toys inside them, and like you said, they have the storyline in both French and English, and so it's definitely
awesome.
Definitely a cool piece.
Yeah, it's really cool. It actually has made me sort of, I don't know, I get really interested in like corporate culture, and I realize, Steve, we haven't really spent a lot of time to this. We haven't actually really spent any time talking about like who owns Kenner.
Like the whole General Mills tie and all that, yeah.
General Mills, I looked up once and I found the link again. There's a whole book online called The General Mills Parker Brother Merger. And it's all about like because the whole makers van monopoly, I think that only happened after this merger that I think happened in the early 80s. And so, I don't know, there's just this weird like sort of this nascent megacorp cross branding or whatever it is, because if I remember from video game history correctly, Parker Brothers figured out how to engineer Atari games, and it used to be that only Atari they like reverse engineered Atari games, and they sold games that could work on that system, and it was like this whole scandal. So it's kind of cool that you'd get a $5 rebate coupon for the video games from the booklets. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, it seems to me that that's a rich area for us to talk about. Well, it sounds like all 3 of you have gone to sleep, so maybe it's not.
No, Scott, that's actually a really interesting area, and you're right. Like, for example, when you see on the date stamps on different figures, GMFGI, that stands for General Mills Fun Group Inc., which is technically, that's the entity that was Kenner. Kenner was just a division at that time when they were bought by General Mills. So they weren't even its own, technically not even its own corporate entity. It was General Mills Fun Group Inc. it's interesting because Charlie Lippincott, who has been posting on Facebook, and Charlie Lippincott worked with George Lucas and Gary Kurtz at the first Star Wars for merchandising. He's been posting a bunch of paperwork, and one of the paperwork things that he posted was a memo from Kenner Legal talking about what are the different copyright notices that should go on the figures, and they just kept revising them because the figures would be copyright Kenner, but the characters are copyrighted Fox. So I thought that was really fascinating. So at some other show, you should definitely talk about that. And definitely it's a nerdy aspect of the history of it. But yeah, you're right. This was a cereal company that owned Kenner, among other companies. So it was like a huge conglomerate. You know, nowadays we like to think of like the streamlined companies, and you know, everyone's kind of like a one purpose company. We don't like those conglomerates anymore.
Right.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is interesting. Yeah, it's cool.
But really, Kenner being owned by Hasbro is actually more mom and pop than it was when it was owned by General Mills.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
If you think about, we think of it as this big evil, you know, corporation, but they're still just a toy company. I think. I mean, I guess they, you know, they made the Battleship movie, so they're also, you know,
they're officially in the movie business,
right? Yeah, awesome. Well, very good unloved item. I definitely didn't know about these little books. So do you still have them, Will? And are they opened?
Yeah, all the ones I have are open. Most of my stuff's in storage right now, so I don't know where they are in particular. But yeah, to me, they're kind of like a prized, nostalgic item for myself. And,
yeah, I didn't know that you were in Canada.
Yeah, it's definitely you call them unloved, but they're loved by me.
Well, yes, somebody loves every unloved item. That's kind of the idea, and it's hard not to love them. And also, I couldn't help but notice there's a fair amount of information about the York peanut butter toppers, which we mentioned.
Yes.
And I looked those up, and they're not that hard to find. You can buy full sets of them for like $40-$50. So
cool.
in the event that you were moved by our unloved item last month, that's not too hard to find.
I know Frederick was excited about that, so he'll be happy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I believe that was pretty much all of our topics of conversation.
No. Were you gonna make Isaac like do the lightning round, or is that not part of it?
Oh, you're right. Isaac hasn't done the lightning round yet, has he? All right.
Thanks,
you can tell he was so excited.
Now, if your collection were burning, what one item would you take?
Probably that 12-back, the long header we were talking about earlier.
Are you serious? The thing that you would take is the thing you just got a couple days ago? That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about the pajamas? What about the loincloth?
Now what are these pajamas you keep talking about?
Those are, I guess, a sealed pack of pajamas from, I guess they were obviously from the vintage era, but they were in that collection too. And Will seems to really like them. I know a couple other people had expressed some interest. They saw pictures that we posted of the collection, and those seem to be that got some interest. The pajamas.
Wow. Okay, so you take the pajamas. So cup topper, pajamas, hard to choose between the two. So one thing I can say, Isaac, is that I have virtually no comprehension of anything that you collect. That's the other thing about Focus collectors. It's so easy to know what they collect. I don't really know, like, if you even have any particular area. So I wouldn't. Steve, would you have any guess what Isaac's Holy Grail, what even realm it would be in?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think. I mean, I'm not surprised by the display things. I remember us talking about displays before, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's another bad thing about Focus Collect. They make other people who don't have specific character focuses look like they don't collect anything. So, which is not true. Which is not true at all. So,
well, disabuse us. Tell us the truth.
Okay, so no, I collect. I mean, one of my areas of focus is obviously store displays. I've always loved those ever since for many years now. So that's one area. And obviously anything pre-production, although the prices are kind of crazy and out of this world right now. But I guess
if you could get one item, what would it be?
Okay, for a Sword of Slave, it'd be a Collect All 32. And there's specifically one of my holy grails would be there's a layout board for the Collect All 32. That basically is how it's kind of a bunch of layers, and it's hand applied layout board for the Collect All 32. And I have one of those layout boards for one of the shelf toppers. But I would love that Collect All 32 layout board. It's just out of this world. It's featured in Tellerman's book, and I'm not sure where that went, but it's out there.
I think I don't know much about displays, but I think I can actually picture that. I looked up what the header looks like, and I think I remember seeing that in Kellerman. Huh, that's nice.
Yeah, that would be definitely one of my holy grails. It combines store displays with pre-production, so it's boom, right there.
And do you know where it is?
I don't.
You just said that.
Sold it, but yeah, I don't know where it is. I haven't really made a big effort to try to find it. Okay. That's the kind of piece where I figured it's pretty locked up. And
now, Will, if you have it, now's the time to just pipe up, because that would make for awesome podcasting.
No, I don't have that, but I do have a Barbarino acetate sculpt that Isaac's been really hounding me about, and I think that's his real, true holy grail.
Thank you. Well, I've been waiting to talk about this, but actually by that I mean I totally forgot. Did you know, Steve, that you know how there's the guy that's the king of Tiki?
Yeah.
Well, there's also a guy who's the king of Welcome Back Kotter collectibles, and he is on the phone with us right now. Isaac Lev is the king of. He is the number one. He is the Gus Lopez multiplied by Steve Sansweet of Welcome Back Kotter collecting.
That's awesome.
There you go. Yeah, it's one of my side things. I used to watch the show on Nick at Night. When I was a kid, I liked a lot of stuff from the 70s. I was always really into that stuff. I don't know why. It was old, and it was different, and I naturally was attracted to that stuff. And I don't know, Welcome Back Kotter was funny. I found it funny and interesting. And then, God, I don't know how many years ago, I started just seeing what was out there, and Mattel put out a line. So I got, a bunch of those, and I realized there's a variation on them. And then they licensed Welcome Back Kotter, much like Star Wars, for a lot of crazy stuff. There's jump ropes, there's kites, there's books,
are there bootlegs?
There's puzzles. I don't think I've ever seen a bootleg. That's an interesting question. No, I've never seen a bootleg item. Although the quality of some of the items they made is kind of crappy. So kind of like a bootleg. But yeah, it's an interesting line. There's not much. There's just five. Well, for the action figure line, there's just 5 figures and display, a little classroom display, and then. But there's always weird oddball things that'll always come up on searches. So that's what I like about it. There's a calculator, or little school supplies that they made. So yeah, it's kind of a little side thing that I do, a side focus. So that's the one thing that helped me one time, because many years ago, Chris Georgoulias and Fluffy actually, and maybe some others had found some first shot Welcome Back Kotter heads, and immediately they're like, "Oh, Isaac will like these," and of course, because so that was good one. So that's the good thing about having a focus, I guess you could say, is people do tend to gravitate items to you. So I was able to get a couple of first shot heads for the line, and it turns out they have an alternate sculpt where the characters' teeth are showing or they're smiling, and that's not how they were actually ended up being made. They're resculpted or redone somehow for the production figures. So,
wow.
So yeah, I like Welcome Back Kotter.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. You got that sense of entitlement. Anything Welcome Back Kotter has got to go to Isaac. That's what I hate. That's what I hate about that kind of stuff.
I totally have a new lightning round question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What?
Your rubber hose.
Why don't you take one end of a rubber hose and put it in your mouth? And then you take the other and you put it up your nose. And then you blow till you break pockets fall out.
I actually just started I just started doing highest price first for Welcome Back, Kotter. And one of them is a comic book that says, up your nose with the rubber hose. And, man, there's all these Topps proof cards. What do you guys think about Topps proof cards? I know you got to eat well, but that's weird, right? All these proof cards coming out of Topps.
I don't.
Yeah, the Welcome Back Kotter.
Welcome back, Kotter. Topps proof cards.
Well, I mean, there's Star Wars proof cards. You know, they've been around for 4 or 5 years, or whatever. Where almost on a permanent basis, for $40, you can buy like color separations of, you know, a card that'll be like, you know, Lando's in distress, and they'll just have like the color separations, or so the Topps vault keeps on releasing these things, and so now for $500, you can, you know, buy a picture of Epstein saying, "I was going to cut class, but someone stole my pocket knife," to Barbarino.
What? Are you serious, Skye? Or are you?
Yeah, I'm serious. I'm a good improviser, but that is way too good. There's one of Travolta saying, "The meeting of the Barbarino fan club will now come to order." That's great. Anyways,
that's kind of crazy.
Definitely off the rails, which I'm just trying to buy you time so you can answer the most important question. This will answer what we really need to know. Isaac, if you were a vintage Star Wars collectible, which one would you be?
Oh, that's a good question. Does a store display count?
Sure.
I don't know if that counts. So, yeah, it was actually interesting. I was thinking about, you might ask me that, and I was wondering why I actually like store displays. And it's interesting because, and specifically, I'd be one of the collect all displays. So collect all 21 or 32 or 48. And I don't know, but ever since, I like things that are in order, and that show, lots of variety. So for example, when I was a little kid, there was a poster that I bought that had all of the NFL teams' football helmets on the poster.
Uh-huh.
You know, every single team. And I wasn't really into football that much, but I love the fact that there were all these helmets on the poster, every single one, and you could see all the different teams and all the different, you know, helmet designs. And I have a poster now of all the United States presidents, you know, standing in front of the White House. So I don't know, I like lists of things. So I don't know, these store displays are kind of like similar. So like collect all 21 and you see all 21 of them. So I don't know, I'd be that, because it kind of goes with what I like in life, I guess. But,
that's a good answer.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
That was some rope-a-dope. You started off with like, oh, geez, I don't know how I would get an answer. Would you mind if I just totally made a completely profound answer?
Yeah. Exactly. So there you go. That's what I would be. I would be a store display hanging up at Toys R Us.
Now, how many would we have to collect? Are we like just... Oh, okay, that's a good question. What's the last store display that shows all the figures? 48?
48, yeah, 48.
Yeah. Steve, did you hear that?
Yeah.
I got an answer right.
You did.
What do you say when I say, are you somebody? Damn right I'm somebody.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked you myself.
Yeah, because after that they use just artwork, collect all 65 and 79 feature artwork of the characters, not even of the board.
Yeah.
There's a poster premium. It wasn't really a store display. It was more like a premium that showed all the Jedi figures on it.
Yeah, I love that thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's the beach party. That's what I like to call that.
Yeah, the beach party.
With the fake snow machine in the background.
Well, I think the only way to end this is reading from the cover of Welcome Back, Kotter comic book that I have now found here. If you don't know about Welcome Back, Kotter, you're missing out on a great part of American life. And it has a cover, and it's a goofy thing. And then at the very bottom, it says, bonus, everything you wanted to know about, ... Gabe Kaplan. It's like... I just can imagine a little kid looking at this being like, I don't know. Wait a tick. Everything I wanted to know about... It says Gabriel. About Gabriel Kaplan? Great. Well then, thank you very much, guys. I know you need to go eat with your family, Will. And Isaac, I know you need to go either put on or remove the pajamas.
That was awesome having you guys on. Thanks again.
All right.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome.
All right, Skye here. Before we get to the feedback section, I wanted to add one more thing that's kind of come up since we recorded this episode almost a year ago. Anyway, the thing I want to talk about actually is funny because over the weekend I went to Cleveland, to the beautiful Cleveland Museum of Art. It was actually a romantic getaway. Last year we went to Buffalo. This year we went to Cleveland. Nothing. It's too good. So anyway, it's a really cool museum, and I saw something that reminded me of Star Wars. So they happen to have a few really good examples of sculptures by Tilman Riemenschneider, who is, if you remember, the name of the German sculptor who created these great sculptures with figures in these sort of strange, exaggerated poses. And that was what we decided to name the mysterious sculptor from Kenner who did the Black Bespin Guard and Luke Hoth. Kind of did it sort of akimbo and a little bit off-center. And that's the reason why certain Empire Strikes Back figures are a little bit different. So anyways, we named that sculptor, because Chris Georgoulias demands that we not reveal his real name, we named that sculptor the Tillman sculptor. A year ago, I ended up calling him like Leanie McLeanerson or something. But I think the Tillman sculptor is cool. So anyways, just to remind you, Luke Hoth is yet another one of the Tillman sculpts. You can look in the show notes, and you can really see the influence that I included here of a Riemenschneider sculpture. So, cool. All right, now let's get back to the feedback with Steve back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I wonder, we're in the feedback section now. So, what do you think of this kind of... Because it wasn't Gargan Largan.
No.
Like we were pretty much on point, but it was not the typical format that you're used to. Do you like that? Do you not like that? I don't know. I spent a little time. I just went and got some water, and I went back, and I had the Canadian Star Wars Gallery up. And I remember my problem with this website. He's had it up since 2001, and I remember that it's always bugged me that he only has two things in his wanted category, Canadian Forlom, and then the other one is a 12-pack Chewbacca with the Guerre des Étoiles pyramid logo on the front.
Huh.
And that's just one of my grails, obviously, with the French on it and everything. And so, like, I think I've always had this weird grudge against this site because I've always known, obviously, he needs that, talking about the sense of entitlement that focus collectors have. Like, his entitlement as a Canadian collector way supersedes my entitlement as a French guy and a Chewbacca guy. But, like, anyways, it's just funny thinking about that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're actually, next year, that'll be 15 years that he's been on he's been on there. So maybe we can have him come on and celebrate that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And then this is one thing for you vegetarians out there who think that we don't have enough meat on the show. Brisbane Mike raised this great point.
Oh,
so there's
right.
actually going to be real deal meat in the middle of this show. We might come back to this and talk about it some other time. But this brings me back to the second meeting of the Star Wars Vintage Star Wars Collectors Club in California with John Kellerman, which you did not go to, right, Steve?
The only one I've missed, yeah.
It was the best one.
Yeah.
So, first of all, talk about going back in time and kicking yourself. Kellerman showed up to the meeting with a binder filled with chromolins. It was a binder filled with chromolins. Okay, just jam-packed.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he had was the 41B back chromolin.
Right,
so
right.
Nothing on the front.
Right.
And the 41C. And I believe that was it. It was 41B and 41C. Yeah. He had them both. And he was, like, kind of freaking out because they both had the same sign-off date and by the same person.
Mm.
And so he was saying, like, oh, so does that mean that they were released at the same time? And then has basically been determined that they were because figures will either come out on 41Cs and 41Es or 41Bs and 41Ds. So that whole kind of conversation that we were having with Frederick about him not being able to find the different 41s, there's this whole interesting thing that happens with 41 backs and how they were displayed. So Steve and I have spent a little bit of time looking at the difference between them. And essentially, so the 41A just has the action figure stand. So that's just a stupid card back only liked by Yankees fans. The 41B is Dagobah playset, Darth Vader collector case, TIE Fighter, Falcon, Twin Pod Cloud Car, and Slave 1.
Right.
The 41C has the Snowspeeder, Mini Rigs, Tauntaun, Turret Probot, AT-AT, and Imperial Attack Base.
Right.
So it's basically one of them is more Bespin and Dagobah, and then the other is all Hoth.
All Hoth stuff, right.
And so if you look at the difference between the figures, so someone on an old Jamie Bannon, an old thread, broke down because basically a figure will either be released on C and E's or B and D's, and the difference between the C and the E is just that the individual photos has been replaced by a group photo.
Right.
And that's the same thing as the difference between the B and the D.
Yeah.
But there's no rhyme or reason to it, Steve. I mean, Chewbacca's on the Hoth one, Vader's on the Bespin one. I guess that makes sense. Obi-Wan, I mean, how do you determine where to put him?
Yeah.
And then, Han Solo Bespin, that makes sense, but then Dengar's mostly, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But they were apparently released at the same time, and I think I figured it out, Steve, why they were released at the same time.
Why is that?
Because they had too much stuff to show off. So they just they figured people would buy multiple figures, so they would see they were different, they'd say, oh, look at this, that's different, I gotta get that too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the toys weren't released in different waves, they were just basically they ran out of space, so they had to make another card back.
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice. Oh yeah, and I got a response somewhere. So I called the Nebraska podcast, the Nebraska Star Wars podcast, the Bounty Hunter
Collector's podcast. Yeah.
It's run by two brothers and some other guy. I apologize if you're the some other guy. And I called them the Harvats. No. And it's actually the Havrats.
No, I think it's the other way around, Skye.
No. It's the Havrats. That's the real way. The real way is Havrat.
Are you sure?
Yes. Because I would think it's Harvat. So anyways, I am not corrected. Are you looking it up?
It's not. It's Harvat.
No, it's Havrat. I said Harvat, and the right answer is Havrat. Right?
No.
Yeah, but kind of.
No.
I'm going to look it up here. I'm on here on Facebook. I'm going to look up Bill Harvat. Harvat, Steve.
Yes.
It's Harvat.
Yes.
Not Havrat.
Not Havrat, which is what you
This is totally ridiculous, Steve. I don't know. Havrat? Like, what do you think? Like, Havrat will travel, or like they're having some terrible Thanksgiving where they're just going to eat rat? It's Harvat.
Right.
Yeah, don't try and turn this around on me, Steve. It's Harvat, okay? I mean, usually I'm the one who makes mistakes with these things, but this time, yeah, it's Harvat. So, anyways, thank you to the Harvat brothers. I'm sorry that Steve keeps mispronouncing your name. Good. So, I believe that's it. It's only the 18th, so maybe more people will post more interesting things. The fantasy baseball draft is coming up soon.
Yep.
When, Steve? Like in a week?
I think it's on a Sunday. I think it's the 29th of March.
I'm not ready.
Oh, you'll be fine.
As the great poet and thinker Will Grief might have heard us once say, Wampa Wampa.
Adios.
These action figures are not yet available, but this Star Wars Early Bird certificate package is in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate.